Hello guys, what is up? My name is Dylan. Welcome to the Popcorn Podcast. This is episode number 65. Do you like the number 65? It just feels complete. We don't usually talk about TV shows much here on the channel. It is usually specifically films, but every now and then there is a show that comes along that is just too big, too significant for me to ignore. But in, of course, this episode, we are going to be talking about all things Daredevil Born Again. And I've got the main man himself, Gaz, on the couch. This time, he's taken the whole couch to himself. Gaz has, of course, been on the podcast a couple times before. 1/5 of the post-credit scene podcast, who we love to see. And, of course, Gaz himself. Dude, you're doing mad things recently. You're doing crazy things. Your following has gone up massively. The amount of videos you're posting is increasing. Just from one creator to another. Like, mad respect. It's how much you've come, especially in the past couple of months for sure.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Thank you. Just enjoying everything I do.
Yeah.
That's I just make things that I like. And
Yeah.
whatever resonates with. I think there was a switch I made in my head towards the back end of last year. Where I said, make what you like, and whatever resonates, and it kind of takes any sort of like pressure on yourself because you're just doing it for yourself. And
absolutely.
Yes, it's been a decent start to the year.
But you, dude, the amount of things that you cover, the amount of shows that you cover, you must watch a lot of TV.
Watch a lot of TV. I feel like I used to be a heavy movie guy.
Yeah.
And then I became a big TV guy. And then when we started doing the podcast, I had to find a nice medium, which I still haven't. But I'm trying my best to watch as many movies as possible.
I think you're doing all right.
Yeah. Obviously saw Sinners recently, which I'm sure you will do an episode on.
I mean, I'm reviewing straight after this one, man. Yeah.
Sinners is...
Dude, I was like, do I get Gaz on for Daredevil or do I get him on for Sinners? I don't know, man.
No, it's all
But, of course, yeah. Like I said, we're going to be talking about Daredevil Born Again. This is a character that, has been very, very significant for me. I'm sure Gaz as well. We'll get into all of that good stuff in just a sec. But before we do, Gaz, since you are the guest on the couch, you've done a couple of quickfire questions before in the past, but I thought, seeing as you're the solo guest here now, I'm going to shoot you essentially the full roundup of quickfire questions I usually ask new guests. Are you ready?
Let's go.
And just to preface, guys, we are talking about TV show today, but most of these quickfire questions, as most of you will know, are more film-based. So let's kick things off. So first up, Gaz, what is your favorite film?
I'm gonna say it's a film that I watch often. American Gangster.
American Gangster.
Yeah,
great film.
Just Denzel is one of my favorite of all time. When I think of him, I tend to think of that particular period of his career. Where he had Book of Eli. What's the film with the young girl?
The young girl?
Yeah, I've forgotten her name.
I'm trying to think now.
It's
not The Equalizer.
She gets taken hostage and he has to rescue her.
You're not talking about Equalizer, are you?
No, Equalizer is great though.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had a whole host of films in that sort of period. Yeah,
Deja Vu?
as well.
Deja Vu. There we go. Yeah. What's a film that makes you cry?
Cool. See, now I wish I'd prepared for that one. I can't think of anything specifically that does, but I've had moments in the cinema in the last 2 years where, I've had a few tears. I can't think of anything specific right now, but I definitely have. I'm not acting like I haven't for sure.
That's man. What's a film that makes you laugh?
Crazy Stupid Love.
Of course, man.
Classic.
It's gotta be done. I rewatched it recently as well. Yeah.
Classic.
What's a film you think is underrated?
So, it's only underrated because I don't think many people have seen it, and it's The Holdovers.
Yeah.
Saw it start of last year, fell in love with that film. Just wish we'd got it earlier than sort of America.
Yeah.
Same time as America.
It's part of that award season sort of list of films that just come out at the start of the year. Yeah. What is a film you think is overrated?
Sicario.
Ooh, that's a take.
So
interesting.
That's not to say it's not good.
Yes, of course.
I hadn't seen it before until maybe a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And everyone that I had spoken to, you have to watch Sicario. But I found Prisoners to be the film that moved me more from sort of catalogue in that particular period.
Yeah, I mean, Prisoners is definitely the more like somber kind of emotional, hard hitting, and then Sicario is definitely more cold, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What is your favorite or one of your favorite performances in a film?
I'm going to use recency bias here.
Okay.
Michael B. Jordan in Sinners.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Only because I loved... Apparently, it was meant to be someone else playing the role beforehand.
Right. I didn't know that.
Jonathan Majors. But he managed to capture the duality of the two twins and separate them, but also create this sort of like bond in history and love that they have, where you can see they're two separate entities, but also very much one. And I love that. And there's been a lot of doubters around Michael B. Jordan. People say, he's only there because of his looks. He's a good-looking guy naturally. So people, I feel, tend to discredit his ability to act. But I think he's proving people wrong. So it is recency bias, but
yeah. I mean, I definitely think hands down that's probably the best I've seen him ever. I think in Sinners, but yeah, man, yeah, good performance, great performance. What's your favorite cinema to go to?
Odeon in Leicester Square is really good because it's got
comfy.
For me, spacing between your legs and the seat in front is very.
You're a tall chap,
especially when people are like walking past and up and down. So yeah, that cinema is really good. My local is West India Quay, which isn't the. Am I gonna get in trouble? It isn't like the prettiest cinema.
Okay.
But it's my local.
What is it? Is it just? Is it called the West India Quay?
It's a Cineworld.
Oh, it's a Cineworld. Okay, cool. I was gonna say, yeah. What's a bad film that you love?
That's a tough one. Bad film that I love. I might use something more recent. No, it's not a bad film. I'm stuck there. Come back to me.
Okay. What is a film ick or red flag that you have?
People complaining about lack of original films, but not going to watch original film.
That is a great one. I definitely missed that out of the episode last week for sure.
And there's a number of people to blame. There is studios, there's cinemas, there's human beings who tend to sort of like lean towards blockbuster movies. Yeah. Luckily, with like a film like Sinners, it kind of does
do both.
It's original and it's a Hollywood blockbuster. So I really do hope that people go and support it because Coogler cooked. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. What's your biggest film green flag?
So a green flag was something I like about
something that you recognize as like, yeah, like I fully agree with this. I'm fully on board if someone does this, or it can be anything really.
People used to get shamed for bringing their own snacks to the cinema. I think that's the smartest thing ever you could do. I bring my own snacks. So either that or yeah, I'd say that.
What's your favorite film score?
Dark Knight's up there. Dark Knight is up there. Because that film sits with me anyway. Whenever I think about the film, I think about the score alongside it, and the genius behind it as well. So that's the first one that came to mind.
Nice.
But Ludwig, I know again recency bias, but Ludwig absolutely added to the atmosphere of
Sinners.
Sorry, I'm gonna make this a Sinners
he's
episode.
definitely one of the best composers working today, man.
He did also
Oppenheimer. Yeah,
that was phenomenal.
Yeah, man, got him his second Oscar. Horror or comedy?
Comedy, but I do have started to appreciate horror a bit more. Never used to watch horror whatsoever, but yeah, for sure. Comedy, make me laugh, easy to watch, and it's kind of universal, whereas horror is a bit more sort of like for a particular community to an extent, whereas horror is a bit more sort of universal. Yeah.
Sci-fi or fantasy?
Fantasy.
Blockbuster or indie?
See, this is tough because you kind of need the blockbusters as they say, you need blockbusters to do really well, and when you get a great blockbuster, it can sort of change you or your experience for a particular few days. But I love indie films as well. Honora would kind of count as an indie, right?
Honora is definitely an indie, yeah.
And I love that film. It's one of my favourites from last year. But I'm going to go blockbuster.
Okay.
Can I change? I'm indie. I'm going
okay. Indie. Well, this is the great thing about both, isn't it? He just walks the line between the two, yeah. What's a film you wish you watched in the cinema?
Dark Knight. Messed up.
I remember watching that when I was like, I think I was 9 years old. Cinema.
That must have been
changed me forever, man. Yeah. Who's a director whose work you want to watch more of?
I'm not gonna say this person because we've spoken about his film enough. I was gonna say Ryan Coogler.
Okay.
Yeah, but
what have you seen from him before? You've seen the Black Panther films, right?
Seen the Black Panther.
And you've seen Creed.
Seen
Fruitvale Station. That's more or less it for the most part.
Oh, I thought you meant like more in the future.
Oh no. So who's a director who has had a body of work that you haven't quite had the time to get to yet, but you're interested to do that?
I still say Denny to an extent. I haven't seen Arrival.
Okay.
And I haven't seen some of the literally there's been times I've put it on Netflix.
Yeah.
And I've never committed.
You need to commit to that film for sure. You can't just have it on like kind of in the background. You need to block out a day for your a portion. Yeah, a couple hours to watch it. For sure. So Denny, then you would say. Okay. And guys, if you were stuck on a desert island, what 4 films would you take with you?
Interesting. Crazy Stupid Love for some humour. American Gangster for some grittiness, but also some layered storytelling underneath. I think that was Ridley Scott's film. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
The Dark Knight to film my comic book needs. Although, you know what, I'm going to change that to Winter Soldier.
Really? Wow. Okay.
Winter Soldier is one of my favorite films of all time, man.
It's a great MCU film. It's a great film. Yeah.
It's just a great, like, pocketed solo film
Yeah.
that then fits into the universe. So that's 3, and maybe Law Abiding Citizen, because it's another film I tend to revisit quite often.
And my final quickfire question for you guys is: what is your most anticipated film for the rest of 2025?
F1. So Fantastic Four, Thunderbolt, Superman, all looking forward to. But there's, to an extent, I almost have somewhat of an idea of what I
What you can expect
to
from
get.
it? Yeah.
Whereas F1 it could go one of two ways. It's got a great lead. It's got a very interesting supporting actor in Damson Idris, who I'd like to see in more sort of Hollywood films.
Dude, I've never seen him in anything yet. I'm excited to check him out.
And the director also worked on
Joseph Kosinski.
Top
Top
Gun Maverick.
Gun Maverick. Top Gun Maverick, yeah. Dude, yeah, I would say that's also probably my most anticipated as well.
I can already know visually it's going to deliver, and sort of sonically and everything. That's, from that perspective, I'm just really interested by if they can have some really interesting storytelling aspects and elevate the sport.
Definitely, man. Yeah. Well, there you have it, guys. That was some quickfire questions with Gaz. Super fun to do, man.
Yep.
But of course, the reason you're on a couch is, well, we're going to break down and discuss all things Daredevil Born Again Season 1. So let's get straight into it. And guys, of course, just a spoiler warning goes out to anyone who hasn't seen Daredevil Born Again. If you haven't seen the show, please do go check it out. Come back to the discussion at a later time. So, Gaz, Daredevil, tell me. I know you're a fan of the character, fan of the Netflix show beforehand. Do you want to tell everyone just how much the show means to you? Take it away.
Yeah, it's when I get infatuated with a show or a movie, I really do.
Yeah.
I'll pick out some of the most minute details that I really care about. Yeah, I started watching the Netflix show, which I think started in 2014, maybe.
Something like that.
13, 14, 15, around that period. And before that, we had like the CW superhero shows,
Arrow, Flash,
which were fun, but also super cheesy.
Yeah.
And they did what they needed to do for that particular era of TV, especially as I think those were sort of broadcast television shows as well. Whereas Daredevil came and was a streaming platform TV series, which had its own identity. It had its own aesthetic. It had its own storytelling devices. It gave us 13 episodes every season, so that's 39 episodes in total. So it just gives you time to really get to know main characters, supporting characters, Hell's Kitchen as a sort of like neighborhood which has its own identity within New York City as well. And I always find New York City heroes to be some of the most interesting as well.
Yeah.
There's so much more I could probably say, but I loved the original 3 seasons, especially season 3. I thought season 3 was phenomenal. Bullseye, Wilson Bethel knocked it out of the park. The whole Wilson, I'm sure we'll get into it.
We'll get into it. Yeah. I mean, what can I say? I'm similar to you. I think I remember the first season of Daredevil sort of dropping kind of when Netflix started to get going. And it was one of the Netflix original shows that almost kind of acted as a debut for the platform.
Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, the fact that I think it was also running parallel alongside when they were doing like the Avengers and stuff was such a kind of breath of fresh air. You know, I know you don't really usually say that about a show as dark and as violent and as gritty as this, but to have that contrast and for it to be still here and there somewhat in fragments connected to that world, but also the innate ability to stand on its own 2 feet was, I thought, wonderful. And I mean, Daredevil as a character, I'm a huge fan of Marvel Comics, Marvel superheroes, but Daredevil was never like, I saw the Ben Affleck film back in the sort of 2000s, but he was never really a character that really clicked with me. But the show made me love him as a character. 100%. And I think, the writing and just the performances, everything that made those first 3 seasons what they were, contributed so much to why I think Matt Murdock, why Daredevil is one of my all-time favorite comic book characters for sure.
You know what, I would say as well, the further the MCU went on, and then in tandem with when Daredevil finished, there was like a gaping hole of a lack of something different to watch that wasn't as bright, as colourful, both storytelling wise and visually as the MCU, which kind of falls into part of my issue with Born Again. But
we'll get to it. Yeah,
there was a gaping hole for like something dark and gritty, which the Penguin kind of filled. No, not even kind of. The Penguin definitely filled last year, but within the Marvel universe, I think it's been crying out. I think people thought Moon Knight might be that, and it didn't deliver in my expectations anyway. So when I heard Born Again was on the way back, there was initial excitement.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you as well. I mean, there was, like you said, this kind of gaping hole. There was we heard the show was getting cancelled, and I mean, I was so upset about that. But at the same time, I was happy that you had those 3 seasons and they were basically untouchable for the most part.
Back to those
you could
any time.
Yeah.
I've rewatched it so many times, and every single time I still enjoy it just as much as the first time.
100%. I mean, so what was it? In preparation for Born Again, I think you did this as well. So Clara had never seen Daredevil, and I said, right, we have to sit down and watch this show. And currently, just because of life and schedules, we still haven't. So we're currently we're on Defenders now. So we've done the first 2 seasons of Daredevil, and then now we're sitting in Defenders. You kind of need that hand storyline to come through to season 3 a little bit.
Yeah.
So I thought, let's continue. So we're sort of taking our time with that. But of course, I was like, I'm not waiting around. I did, of course, watch Born Again in preparation for, of course, this chat with you. Yesterday was officially when I kind of sat down and sort of did the majority of the season.
So where did you restart from?
So I watched the first 2 episodes when they came out, and then I was hoping within the kind of 6 or 7 weeks I'd be able to sort of catch up on season 2 and 3 of Daredevil with Clara and sort of kind of merge the two, but just didn't manage to do it. But then yesterday I was like, right, I'm sitting down, doing the entirety of Born Again. So yeah, I think let's get cracking into let's get breaking into this season. So I thought actually I'll do something quite different, guys. I want to start at the end, just because it's pretty kind of recent. Yeah. What are your thoughts on the season finale?
The finale kind of sums up how I feel about the entire show.
Okay.
Where there's elements which I really enjoyed, but I always go back to the fact I can literally visually see the fact that this series was kind of chopped and screwed into like different pieces and merged into one. And the finale kind of ends anticlimactically in a sense to set up season 2.
Yeah.
Which I was a bit disappointed with. But the highlights of the episode are so high.
Yeah.
Which is kind of my summary of the entire season, is the great moments are great, and then there's a lot of mediocrity within that as well. But I'm going to keep coming back because it's Matt Murdock and it's Daredevil and it's Wilson Fisk and it's Vincent D'Onofrio. So they've still got me.
I think I share for the most part the same sort of take on, I would say, the season finale definitely, and kind of the season as a whole. I think for me, I felt a sense of both frustration but also relief with Born Again. Because for me, like, my main sort of concern going into this is I was like, please don't mess this up. Please don't mess this up. And they didn't mess it up. They didn't mess it up. Thank God they didn't mess it up. And I think,
I agree.
I mean, I don't know if you'd agree, but I think for me, this is by far the best MCU show that there has been.
Which of the films did you like the most? Series.
Series. So I like, you know what? I don't know, but I mean, most people are very mixed. But I liked Moon Knight up until the last kind of episode. WandaVision I kind of like. I'm trying to really think what else.
Oh, interesting.
I like WandaVision. I still also think, I think with most of these MCU shows, they do a lot of interesting things in the beginning and the kind of middle portion, but then in the end, they always kind of bring it back to, it's the most like generic kind of predictable conclusion to a season that there is. They MCU it, if that makes sense. I'm trying to think what other MCU shows. Loki I like. My hot take with Loki is I didn't really love season 2. I liked season 1 a lot.
You said it before.
Yeah. I didn't love season 2 so much, but I think Loki's a strong show as well.
What did you think about 97 X-Men 97?
I haven't seen it. And I know you guys are big fans of that show for sure. I know. I mean, I used to watch the original animated show, so I need to, definitely, man, I need to catch up. But for me, I would say, I think this is, for me, I think it's the strongest show for me.
I'll probably have it third, so I'm not too far off from you per se.
Yeah.
I just feel as though there's a bit too much mediocrity for me, which we'll get into. Whereas I think the other 2 shows, especially Loki, just ever so slightly more tight-knitted, even though Loki does try to do a lot of extravagant universal things. The story feels more tight-knit for Loki, the character, especially the sort of conclusion. But I do have it in and around third. So
and just to go back to the kind of the season finale, which I saw last night, the reason I would say that I'm kind of mixed on it is because unlike the other season finales and the other endings of the previous seasons of Daredevil, this season finale didn't have the same kind of sense of finality to the season as those other 3 seasons did. The other 3 seasons tied things up, in a way that felt conclusive to the story they were telling in those seasons, but also ever so slightly asked questions for what is to come. This, I think, does much more of the latter and doesn't really provide any ground kind of conclusion for the story that they were telling in the first part. And maybe that's the point. Maybe this is supposed to be a 2-3 season kind of arc.
From what I've heard and seen, it's essentially a mid-season finale.
Yes.
Without being a mid-season finale.
Yeah, that's definitely what
and
it felt
like.
that
way.
Yeah, for sure, man. You can, they kind of just, I will say, I did really enjoy the Radiohead kind of montage at the end you play that song, you're going to win me over. But yes, it did feel it reminded me a lot of the Batman, the final sort of 5-ish minutes of the Batman where Robert Pattinson's narrating and sort of about how the city needs to kind of come together.
Yeah.
It kind of gave me that kind of energy, but that's not to say I'm not excited to see what they do.
Oh, for sure.
I think.
Why are you excited?
Why am I excited? Well, just plain and simple, because I love the character. I love these characters. Let's talk about it. I love Charlie Cox as Daredevil, and I love Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin, and Frank Castle's back, John Bernthal. These guys have such almost effortless, natural ability to play these now icons of Marvel television.
100%.
Charlie Cox, man.
Embodies the character down to a T.
He is Matt Murdock.
Yeah. You, as you said, you can feel the natural on-screen, and this is where every time I talk about the good, I can't help but talk about what.
Yeah.
But when you see the likes of Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio on screen, or Charlie Cox and John Bernthal, or Charlie Cox and Deborah Ann Woll, plays Karen.
Yeah.
You can feel the effortless on-screen chemistry, both visually and also through the story being told between them. Whereas when I compare Matt's relationship with Cherry or Kirsten, or even Fisk's relationship with Buck Buchanan, who's like his minis, if you like. There's something missing for me when I compare Fisk's relationship with Wesley, where you can feel the history, you can feel the layers, you can feel the fact that this is somebody he truly cares about. Fisk, there was a lot of personality and dynamic missing for me in some of the relationships with the likes of Cherry and Kirsten and Buck. Although I did like his little, I forgot the guy's name.
Oh, the sort of head of communications.
Yeah. I couldn't help that.
The vice president of communications.
I couldn't help but find him quite.
I think Michael Gandolfini. That's who he plays. Yeah.
Couldn't help but find him very, very charming. But yeah, when you see those guys on,
you found him charming.
Like, not charming in a sense of
like he's got an energy about him in a sense,
like a lovable energy more than charming. Shall I say?
I thought he was so slimy, but I didn't like seeing him on the.
He was slimy, but when you consider the world that he's in, which is like New York and it's dark and gritty, you kind of need to have your wits and twos about.
Yeah, he's like a kid playing a sort of man's game, if that makes sense.
Trying to.
Yeah.
And Fisk just wants people that will suck up to him and tell him he's the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
Which Galloway wouldn't do, for example.
No.
Which is what we saw what happened to him. So, but yeah, the final 2 episodes I thought were good episodes. Episode 8 was great.
I agree. I think that's my best episode. The best episode of the show.
Should we talk about episode 8?
Yeah, let's go for it, man. Bullseye coming out.
At the beginning, like the visual detail.
Yes.
Which, yes, it was on the nose to an extent. But I love the fact that they use colour to like storytell both what's happening or about to happen, alongside a character's feelings or his powers awakening. So every time the screen turned blue, you could cut Bullseye was awakening. And I think that was done beautifully in maybe 3 or 4 of the scenes. It wasn't done too much throughout the episode, but when they did it, it was effective. I love the sort of rose hue with Bullseye's sort of overlooking the prison cell. And then obviously the final scene where Matt's covered in red, again reflecting like him being Daredevil, him saving Wilson Fisk, and his blood being on Fisk, his biggest enemy. The writing for... Do you remember the scene where Matt visits Bullseye in the prison?
And he slams his head. Yeah.
And he says something to Matt like, you're meant to save the good guys. Or you're meant to save the bad guys. That's what you do.
Yeah, he's meant to defend the bad guys. Yeah.
Something along those lines. And he ends up doing that, literally knowing that Bullseye was going to take out Fisk. He reflects that in his actions in the final scene of the episode. I thought it was fun. I thought that episode, it was great. Visually and storytelling wise. But then, again, it takes me back to the point, you can compare that to episode 7, which is where Muse passes right.
Yeah, yeah.
It's night and day visually.
Passes. That's an elegant way of putting it.
It's night and day in terms of the visual storytelling as well as the character storytelling.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about the visuals then, because for me, I would say this is one of my biggest sort of drawbacks of this season. I will say, I'll start off by saying, I think Born Again definitely finds, for the most part, a nice balance between bringing kind of some threads from the previous seasons and trying to forge its own identity. It's definitely a show that does stand apart from those previous seasons. Yeah. And I think it should. I think, it's a different time. It's a different...
make the same thing again.
Exactly, exactly. That being said, for me, I hate how just grey and dull a lot of this show looks. I hate to use the term MCU-fied, but that is exactly kind of what it's become. The lenses have completely changed. They shoot on, these huge anamorphic wide lenses. And for me, whilst a lot of the stuff that they do in this season visually is quite interesting, I love the aspect ratio changes. One thing I will say is I loved how the show portrayed Matt Murdock's sense of hearing and how the camera moves around him and like the various different kind of components from in and around the room, his location, almost this sense of echolocation. I thought was really, really effective. That being said, I can't help but say that I do just love and prefer the kind of indie feel that the first 3 seasons bring. I think that is much more, for me, suitable visual dynamic for these characters. You feel like you're in a conversation with them in the room. The kind of richness of the colors, the reds, the yellows, it really feeds into like the glass stained windows, this whole idea of Catholicism reigning over.
This is apartment that you look
yes,
at.
Yes.
They're like a character in
this
apartment that he's in.
Yeah.
Compared to in the original series, as you said, sort of the glass windows and the vastness of it, but the greyness of it, but there's still enough sort of texture in the colors.
Yeah.
Gives it a character and an atmosphere and a tension, which makes it feel very much lived in and suitable to what Hell's Kitchen is.
Yeah, yeah. And I think also that's why, for me, even though there are some great moments of violence in Born Again, for me, the violence works so much better in those original seasons because they aren't as glamorized or as they're not as cinematic as they're presented in this show. And therefore, when you see a guy's head getting smashed in with a bowling ball, you feel it. And I'm not
seeing that.
Yeah. Do you remember that?
Wow. Season
one. Yeah. Like those moments of violence, you truly, and like Bullseye, like in season 3, whenever when he puts on the Daredevil costume, and he's going around massacring people left, right, and center.
The office scene and the church scene, that's with the dark.
Yeah.
Actually, when you think about the concepts of what he's doing in the church, and taking people's life, in a church, he took Father Lantern's life.
Yes.
Someone that Matt loves. He's done that to a few people.
He has.
Yeah, it's was crazy to.
Yeah, Bullseye for me was still one of the most terrifying villains there is. He's a complete psychopath, but in a way that. He doesn't even explain. There is no explanation. He just sees and kills. And he's almost this force of nature that kind of moves in. And that's why episode 8 was so kind of terrifying. At least the start of it was, or the end of it was. So yeah, that's just...
In the original show, they beautifully, for all of the antagonists, gave backstory and context.
Yes.
Like, to somewhat explain, not justify because you can't, but to somewhat explain why he's the way we saw Fisk. His dad. And, taking his life, Bullseye in season 3, where we see his issues with his therapist and his issues with his when he was playing baseball as a child and he wanted to keep pitching?
Yep.
They do a great job of sort of layering and adding context without justifying ever what these characters have done. And I think even Bullseye has that to an extent, but I think he's too far gone now. He's way too far gone. Yeah.
He is just kind of he's just kind of a character that kind of sits in the corner, and whenever the show kind of needs him, they'll bring him in, kind of thing. For me, I'm happy you spoke about kind of developing the villains. What did you think of the kind of, I want to say, the sort of B villain here in Muse? He kind of takes the reign in the sort of middle section. No?
I was so disappointed.
Okay, tell me.
I was so disappointed with Muse. Because when you think of, hypothetically, when you think about who he is, sadistic killer, goes around using people's blood to create art. There is an interesting deep dive you can do into his character, especially the fact they laid foundations for it in terms of in episode 2, he goes to visit Heather. After that, we don't see him visit her again. And then in episode 7, they've somewhat built this relationship, apparently, from what they try to tell us, but we don't see it visually or storytelling wise. So when they're interacting, there's just a huge exposition dump, information of, I used to do karate, I think
Taekwondo,
Taekwondo as a kid, and I love arts, and this would have been so much better had that been sprinkled in throughout the rest of the episode.
100%.
To build up to them in this room facing off, Heather being terrified by this sort of assassin killer, and him being somewhat supposedly infatuated with her, which we see in the second episode, but don't see again afterwards. And it felt like a wasted opportunity to give us a really interesting deep dive into this sort of sick killer, sadistic guy, using people's blood to spray paint or to paint the city, if you like. It felt like a waste of a really good opportunity to deep dive.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with you. I think I remember watching that episode, the one where...
watched it recently.
Yeah, I watched it yesterday. And I remember at the very start of the episode, they do obviously a recap for every single episode. So I did actually watch the recap, and they did just put like a moment between the two of them when he comes to see her at the start of the show, like sort of asking for therapy, essentially, like 3 seconds of that in the recap. And I was like, dude, that's him. That's Muse. That's him. That's going to be Muse. And then they do this whole episode. They do this sort of exchange of dialogue between Heather and I think his name is Bastian. I think that's his name. And then conveniently, and I don't know if I'm not familiar with the character in the comics, so I'm sure he does do Taekwondo, he knows martial arts in the comics. But for me, it felt very tacked on, like, oh, this whole Taekwondo narrative, just for the sake of justifying why he can take on Daredevil. That's the only thing that I can see. And then before you know it, that's it. He's done, finished.
And that particular scene was in the daytime. And it was so bright, sort of white, and there was a lack of any sort of character to that scene from a visual standpoint.
Definitely.
But I did love the way it ended.
Yes.
On the canvas.
Yes. That was nice.
Creating art. That was
cool. That was cool.
And this is where I'm at with the show. There's
moments.
There's moments.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I will say I did actually prefer the fight that they had in the sort of subway tunnels. I think it was a previous episode when he kidnaps the girl.
Oh, in his lair.
In his lair. I like that fight a lot better. But I feel like that's also because of the kind of... I was on the edge of my seat and I was so hyped up because, for lack of a better phrase, I feel like the show definitely kind of blue balls you for the majority of the part. Like, it keeps Daredevil at arm's length for most of the season. Matt Murdock isn't Daredevil until like literally episode 6, episode 7, something like that.
Yeah.
Episode 5, 6, something like that.
6, yeah.
And then like in the kind of heat of the moment, he just goes, fuck it. And then just puts on the...
But it's even that build-up of him saying, I'm going to put the suit back on, didn't feel as though there was any tension sort of built up. He just hears Muse is on the run. Muse is about to take someone else's life. No, he took Hector's young daughter or niece. Oh, I'm now going to become Daredevil again. And it's kind of like, we could have built this up.
For me, I didn't take as much issue with it because I thought it was... Yes, I agree with you. I think that needed a bit more justification for that. But like... I think almost because I was anticipating it.
You just wanted to see him in a suit.
Well, yeah, exactly.
No,
plain and simple. Plain and simple. I mean, I liked the fight scenes. I liked a lot of the fight scenes, but then again, like visually, you don't quite. It doesn't quite have the same impact as
There's a lot
the
of
previous.
There's a lot of cuts in those fight scenes. Whereas, don't get me, not everything needs to be a one take because we're currently in like a bit of a one take era.
Yeah.
People seem to be in love with that in this particular moment, which isn't a bad thing. But there's a lot of sort of sharp editing within those fight scenes, which kind of takes you out of them. Whereas with the original shows, when you think about the one in the hallway in season 2, or the apartment in season 1, or even some of the office fight scene with Bullseye in season 3, where Bullseye's using long distance fighting in terms of being able to throw, but Matt prefers close combat fighting, which is representative of their skill sets and who they are. It's night and day again for me. Yeah. Yeah. I hate comparing, but it's hard not to.
No, but it's true because in those fight scenes, a great fight scene is supposed to reveal and tell you about the characters. It's supposed to do a story. It is a storytelling device. So when you just have two guys sort of fighting each other and there's no kind of narrative going on there, it does feel a bit bland. Yeah, for sure.
Bullseye, in 2 of his scenes in this series, using a gun to take down Foggy and to try to take down Fisk.
Yeah.
Not to say he's not okay. He's a war veteran, so he's very capable with a gun. But I would have loved to have seen
Something more creative.
which they kind of did in episode 8 with the tooth. Love that. As far fetched as it could.
Yeah.
Loved.
I'm like, bro, how does that work? But yeah.
Love the concept of it, and I think it's based on like a comic actual story that he did
Yes.
with the tooth as well.
Yeah.
We could just done with some. There's a lot to love, and there's a lot to. Oh, I wish they'd done this differently.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I feel. I wanted to ask you about your thoughts on the creative overhaul.
Okay.
The first 5 shows or first 5 episodes were written by Chris Ord and Matt Corman, I believe.
Okay.
And obviously they were fired just during COVID.
I did not know this.
Yeah, so they were fired fired might sound harsh, but they were taken off the show by Kevin Feige during COVID, and that's when they had this sort of creative overhaul. So they had Dario Scardapane, who was the Punisher showrunner, come in. Before that, Marvel had never had a showrunner on their shows, which you can kind of now piece things together. It makes sense. He came in to be the showrunner, and they brought in Aaron Moorhead and Justin Benson as directors who had worked on Loki and Moon Knight.
Yes.
And I think you can literally visually and storytelling-wise see the difference between... So the bullseye scene in episode 1 was attached, part of the reshoots from the overhaul, and then episode 8 and episode 9 was part of the overhaul as well. And I also think the fight with Muse may have been attached as well, in terms of part of the reshoots was attached to episodes that they'd previously shot. And I think you can literally see like there's almost 2 different stories being told that's been merged into one.
There is I hear what you're saying. There is something a little bit off and that doesn't quite click into place. For me, I don't know if it's just my experience of binging this all in one day. I was kind of just there and I wasn't watching week on week, so I couldn't see it as much. For me, it wasn't a huge issue for me. I didn't feel it as much. But I can definitely see what you mean, for sure. There is some sort of creative disconnect there, for sure.
And it did as good a job as you can do trying to merge 2 different creative visions. And it doesn't necessarily take away from the series or the season as a whole. But having that prior knowledge and then having watched it, and especially episode 8, for me was so distinct visually.
That is that I agree with, for sure. How it opens with the blue velvet rose kind of sort of shot. Yeah, definitely. No, I can see that. I can get behind that for sure. Yeah. I'm trying to think any other kind of mixed aspects.
I wanted to ask you about episode 5 as well, because that's a lot.
The prison break, the bank heist. Sorry, not bank.
That's a lot of people's one of their.
I've got this written down. The bank heist episode for me is obviously just the kind of filler episode. Definitely, it's the kind of episode where nothing really kind of advances the plot. It is sort of in the same vein as if you've seen Breaking Bad, you know the episode The Fly, where Walter White is just stuck in the lab trying to chase down this fly. Nothing really happens. So you either love those kind of episodes or you don't. For me, I'm kind of half and half. On the one hand, while it was frustrating to see the plot not really progress, I did find it to be somewhat a breath of fresh air for the most part. Especially in the kind of last kind of one of my favorite moments in the entire season is when the bank heist is done and like the main Irish guy
he was great. Man.
He was great. He dresses up as a cop and then walks out, and then Matt chases him, puts on the mask and kicks the shit. That was one of the most satisfying moments. However, my main concern with this episode, my main problem with this episode was what's his name?
Kamala
Khan's dad. It was so tonally off. It did not fit with the dialogue. It was a constant, really quite frustrating and annoying reminder that this is part of the wider MCU narrative, whether you like it or not. And I just felt like the dialogue was so tacked on, so hammy. This is the lesson I taught Kamala, this Kamala, that Kamala.
The little, what's it called? The toy thing.
Yeah. The you mean the diamond thing?
No, there was like a little toy thing of Kamala Khan. You know.
Oh yeah, I'm like, bro, are you trying to like sell us?
They're literally trying.
You're trying to sell Miss Marvel toys to Daredevil fans? Like, bro, what are you doing? Like,
tonally off.
So that's kind of my take on that episode. How about yourself?
Same, but I do like the fact, for the most part, it was one of the episodes that, because it was a standalone, it had like a coherent story being told throughout, which is focused on one or two things rather than mismatching Heather's story with Muse, but then we don't see Muse again, and sort of with Cherry, who no disrespect to the actor, I don't care about Cherry. I don't care about Kirsten. I don't really care about Buck Buchanan, to an extent at least anyway. This was just focused on the bank heist. I thought the lead robber was like super cool, super charismatic. I love the exchange with the police lady.
Yeah, that was cool.
Where she was telling him a joke.
Yeah. Dude, I love when Matt Murdock got on the phone and started speaking in an Irish accent. That was funny. Yeah.
I enjoyed the episode more so because it felt a bit more tight. Tight knitted.
Yeah, I will also say that the other good thing about that episode, and I think just as a whole, is because you don't get so much Daredevil. Matthew Murdock is front and center this season. He is, in the previous seasons, you've seen him trying to conceal his identity as much as possible. Here, it's almost like he doesn't give a fuck. Right? He doesn't give a shit. He's gonna fuck with you whether you like it or not. Matt Murdock is almost as much of a persona now as Daredevil.
You know what? You're right. Yeah.
So and I think the bank heist episode was a good demonstration of seeing him use his kind of powers, let's say, his skill set.
Great use.
Yeah, with the whole bank lock thing. Fantastic.
Yeah, and Kamala Khan's dad was like, "How are you doing?"
Yeah. Cool. I want to ask you, what did you think of the Punisher this season?
Oh man. Every time he came on screen, I was like, give me more.
Yeah.
I need episode 4 was probably my highlights of the season.
Really?
You can tell it was, again, I can tell it was part of the reshoots, but the scene with him, John Bernthal and Matt Murdock.
Yeah.
John Bernthal and Charlie Cox in sort of Punisher's lair where, they're going back and forth about Foggy and him putting on the suit, him calling him Red and saying, you weren't there for Foggy when he needed you the most. Loved it.
Yeah.
Love seeing those two on screen every single time. There's just, as we said before, such a natural on-screen chemistry that they have. Like, you can see they've acted together before.
Yep.
There's history between the two characters. And it took me back to the original Netflix show, but still felt like it had the born-again identity. So it kind of merged the two worlds in a way which other aspects of the show haven't done so. So I loved episode 4. And then the fight scene in Matt's apartment, I loved it as well.
Yeah, I enjoyed seeing John Bernthal back as the Punisher on screen for sure.
This is interesting.
I liked the shootout in the final episode. I thought it was very cool. It was awesome to see, Daredevil and Punisher teaming up again. That was very great. For me, I do think the show does reduce Frank Castle to the bare bones of his character. I don't think what he's doing in this season is anything new or what we haven't seen before. The exchanges of dialogue between him and Matt about, I crossed the line to put these guys down so they don't ever get back up, and Matt saying, no, I had this. We've had it many, many times before, and I don't think the show really introduced any new ideas with the Punisher, but it was a nice addition, a nice sprinkle, a nice kind of nostalgia kick. I'm never going to complain about John Bernthal being on screen. The guy's just fantastic.
I hate the word underrated, but I do feel as though he's somewhat underrated.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, he's a great
actor. Looking forward to The Accountant too.
Oh yes, and also, are they doing another Punisher season or a mini-series or something? Yeah.
Episode for him next, which should be out maybe next year. And hopefully that can satisfy you all. Well, I agree with you actually. So I satisfy our needs in terms of where can we take his character that we didn't necessarily where we haven't already taken him.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Yeah,
I thought it was great. And Deborah Wall's return.
Yeah,
Karen. I love that sort of love triangle.
Yeah, it is. It is very much a love triangle. Yeah.
And again, her scenes with Charlie Cox.
Yeah.
Feel as though this is like home again, and these two people know each other. They've got history.
Yeah.
And I did find it funny when Matt woke up and
he said
waiting over him. Karen.
Yeah, Heather, I would say I'm a bit mixed on. I think for the most part, I liked her character. Towards the end, she makes some questionable decisions, and you could try and justify why she is behaving in a certain way. But for me, as a sort of renowned therapist, for the latter half of the season, she doesn't do an awful lot of listening. And I feel like that's kind of your one job as a therapist. Like she's not, and then now she's like the new head of like mental health for Fisk, and like, yeah, I don't know. I'm a bit like, I don't know how I feel about this for some of the things at the end of the show. But now, of course, a lot of people are saying the main problem with the whole ending is the kind of how it connects to the wider MCU. That there is no way, a citywide lockdown, a shutdown with Fisk, etc., isn't gonna ignite or turn the heads of the other heroes or the other, the extended world of the MCU. Like, there's no way. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, no, yeah.
I wanted to ask you one other question.
Yeah.
If you could bring in for season 2 characters from either the previous show or from the current MCU to sort of fit in with season 2 story, if you could pick like 3 characters to bring in.
Gosh. I mean, I always kind of want to see Spider-Man team up with Daredevil. I mean, it's a classic sort of storyline in the comics. Punisher as well, of course. If I'm talking about characters from previous seasons, it's tough to say. Elektra would have been a nice mix, but
she said she wants to.
Yeah. Elodie Young, yeah. Ooh, I'm not really sure. If I'm talking about other heroes, Iron Fist, I mean, I'm not a big fan of Iron Fist in the Netflix show, but I do think that the character, there's so much potential there with the character, so I would really like to see that character, justice be done to that character. So that would be a cool addition, I would say. What about yourself?
Jessica Jones would be cool.
Yeah.
I think they've got history as well. So
Yeah.
That would be good. Brett Mahoney.
He
was the police officer.
Yes.
That would be really good. Because
he was a great cop. Yeah.
Cherry was
just wasn't doing it.
Well, Ben Urek's part. I did like what they did with BB in the last episode 8, where she knew what Fist did. I was kind of, does she know? She definitely knew. So Brett Mahoney, Jessica Jones, and Spider-Man just can't happen because of rights, which is annoying.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm stick with those 2, and maybe
good question.
Someone from the MCU, like a
Hawkeye.
It's not Hawk. What's Kate Bishop?
Kate Bishop.
Kate Bishop. Yeah, maybe a Kate Bishop-ish kind of character who's not necessarily too big that she can't come into.
Yeah.
A series.
It's interesting. I do like Kate Bishop, but I just think tonally, I don't know how.
She's a bit more comedic, isn't she?
Yeah, I don't know. Like Yelena Belova is a cool character to potentially get in, throw in the mix.
Charlie Cox not Charlie Cox, but Matt Murdock loves his women.
Yeah, he does. Bro is not blind.
He picks some very good women. That would make sense.
Yeah.
Why not?
Oh gosh. Well, there you go. There you have it, guys. I mean, unless there's any other points you want to discuss, I think that kind of wraps our sort of thoughts on Born Again season 1. Do let us know what you thought of the show down below in the comment section, whether you loved it, whether you were disappointed by it. We'd be keen to hear what you have to say. So now, guys, we're going to play some games. I've got 3 games for you.
Cool.
The first of which is a classic this or that. So I'm going to hit you with some TV shows, and we're going to run through them. You're going to say this or that. So first up, we have Daredevil or Daredevil Born Again. Daredevil or the Penguin.
Oh,
got you nice and early.
Oh no, you can't do that to me. That's horrible. Daredevil gave me 3 seasons.
Daredevil or The Boys. Daredevil or Invincible. Daredevil or X-Men 97.
You're killing me. Daredevil
or The Last of Us.
Oof. What a great opener. Have you seen the first episode?
I haven't seen any of The Last of Us.
That's good. I'm Daredevil.
Daredevil or The Walking Dead.
Daredevil.
Daredevil or Black Mirror.
Daredevil.
Daredevil or The White Lotus.
Daredevil.
Daredevil or Gangs of London.
Daredevil. Easy.
Daredevil or The Wire.
The Wire. The Wire, man. The Wire is The Wire.
Okay. The Wire or Peaky Blinders.
The Wire.
The Wire or Severance.
The Wire.
The Wire or The Office.
The Wire.
The Wire or The Bear.
I love The Bear, man. I feel like you've done your research on me. The Wire.
Well, all good hosts always do that. The Wire or Succession.
Goodness gracious me, man. I love Succession so much. Season 4 is great. So, The Wire.
The Wire or Mad Men.
The Wire.
The Wire or House of Cards.
The Wire.
The Wire or The Crown.
The Wire.
The Wire or The Sopranos.
The Wire.
The Wire or Band of Brothers.
The Wire.
The Wire or Prison Break.
The Wire.
The Wire or Chernobyl.
The Wire.
The Wire or True Detective.
The Wire.
The Wire or Fargo.
The Wire.
The Wire or Westworld.
The Wire.
The Wire or Arcane?
The Wire.
The Wire or Rick and Morty?
The Wire.
The Wire or Avatar: The Last Airbender?
The Wire.
The Wire or Stranger Things?
The Wire.
The Wire or Shogun?
The Wire.
The Wire or House of the Dragon?
The Wire.
The Wire or Game of Thrones?
See, Thrones gave me 5.5 to 6 seasons of greatness. The Wire.
The Wire or Better Call Saul?
The Wire.
And finally, The Wire or Breaking Bad?
The Wire.
Wow, okay, so The Wire wins that. Battle of the TV shows.
That was a good list.
Okay, so Gaz, we're going to move on to game number 2. I'm going to give you, so Gaz, you have a minute. How many British actors in comic book films or TV shows can you name? 3, 2, 1, go.
Charlie Cox.
Yep.
Tom Holland.
Yep.
Robert Pattinson.
Yep.
Florence Pugh.
Yep.
Haley Steinfeld is American. Comic books. The Penguin. Who's in The Penguin? Colin Farrell. He's Irish though, isn't he? Doesn't count. Comic books. Let me go through MCU. Chris Evans. Sam Wilson. I'm struggling here now. Tom Hiddleston.
Yep.
How many have I got? 4? 5?
Yes, 5 or 6, yeah.
This is bad because when I think back, there's who plays for sister. She's British as well. And
I'll give you another 30 seconds.
And she was in that film recently with Michael Fassbender.
Talking about Kate Blanchett.
Fassbender's Irish. Can't use him.
Talking about Kate Blanchett.
Yeah.
She's Australian.
Oh, is she? Don't know why I thought she was British. That's bad. Fassbender's Irish. So Ian McKellen.
Yep.
Patrick
Yep.
Stewart. Legends. Absolute legends. Alan Cummins.
Yep.
Nightcrawler. What a guy.
And there we go. Time's up.
I thought I did okay there.
That was all right. That was good. That was decent.
Who have I missed?
I'm going to give you like a rundown of some of the British actors we have. So we have Charlie Cox, Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield. Benedict Cumberbatch.
Oh my God.
Henry Cavill plays Superman. Christian Bale plays Batman. Robert Pattinson.
No.
Nicholas Hoult, Beast. Paul Bettany, Vision. Letitia Wright, Shuri. Aaron Taylor Johnson plays Quicksilver and Kick-Ass. Patrick Stewart, Professor X. Ian McKellen, Magneto. Sophie Turner plays Jean Grey. Haley Atwell plays Peggy Carter.
She does.
Dominic Cooper plays Howard Stark. Idris Elba plays Heimdall. Gary Oldman plays Jim Gordon. Michael Caine plays Alfred. Andy Serkis plays Alfred. Eowyn Gruff plays Reed Richards in Fantastic Four. Jamie Bell, The Thing. Tom Hardy, Venom and Babe.
Tom Hardy.
Tom Hiddleston, Loki. Alfred Molina, Doc Ock. Karen Gillan, Nebula. Chiwetel Ejiofor, Baron Mordo. Daniel Kaluuya, Mukabi. Risa Fans Lizard, and Matthew Good as Ozymandias in The Watchmen.
When I think about it, how did you not think of some of those?
Dude, when you're on the spot, it's difficult. So I don't blame you. But that was good.
Really, that's a good one. Knocked it out the park with that.
I could already see the reel.
I'm with myself.
There you go.
But that was fun.
Good stuff. So, Gaz, my third and final game is, you're a man of TV shows.
I am.
How many of the 10 most expensive TV shows can you name?
Okay, let's go.
Okay, let's guess. So 1 to 10, in any order you see fit, what are the most expensive TV shows?
Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
Oh, Rings of Power.
Rings of Power. That's number 1.
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones is number 8.
House of the Dragon.
House of the Dragon is number 5.
Not surprising. I feel like there's an Apple show. Severance.
Not Severance.
There's an Apple show in there for sure. Oh. What was the Netflix one that bombed recently? There's a Netflix show. What was it? No, it was a film. Forget that. Excuse me. Forget it. You know what film I'm talking about though, right? The film that came out on Netflix recently. And the directors were the brothers Russos.
Oh, Electric State.
Yeah, that's one of the most expensive films of all time, apparently. What other shows? Apple. What expensive Apple shows would there be? Silo?
Not Silo. No.
Oh. See, this is testing my knowledge. So I've got Thrones, I've got House of the Dragon, and I've got Rings of Power. Those are all I can think of.
Think about big studios.
So there's Apple, there's Netflix, there's Paramount Plus, Disney Plus. Disney ain't gone. WandaVision?
Yeah. So, do you want me to run through them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
Okay.
WandaVision there?
So it's not one. So I've put like Marvel series
Okay.
as a thing. So I'm gonna give you the top 10 most expensive shows. So at number 10, we have The Morning Show, which is the Apple TV show.
Seen it?
No, I haven't. So the cost per episode on average is 15 million. 15 million. So we have The Sandman, which is also 15 million at number 9. No, that's C, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. So The Sandman is number 9. Game of Thrones at number 8 with another 15 million per episode. The Mandalorian or Star Wars TV with 15 million at number 7. The Pacific is at number 6 with 20 million per episode. House of the Dragon sits at number 5 with 20 million per episode. And Marvel series as a whole sits at number 4 with 25 million on average per episode. Secret Invasion costs 35 million on average per episode.
And I should have said that because that was horrific. And I remember that.
And into the top 3 we go. So at number 3, we have Stranger Things, which costs 30 million per episode for Netflix. Number 2 is Citadel, which costs 50 million for Amazon Prime per episode. And of course, at number 1, we have The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, sitting at $58 million per episode as the most expensive TV show of all time.
I should have got the Star Wars stuff, the Disney Plus, Stranger Things. Citadel, I knew that, but I'd forgotten it until you'd mentioned it. But those 3, show, I should have got.
Well, there you go, man. There you go.
Always something to learn.
Yeah, man. Well, that concludes the games, and therefore that concludes, guys, the episode. Thank you so much, guys, for coming and talking.
Really enjoyed this, man.
All things Daredevil. Of course, man. It's always a pleasure having you on, man. We look forward to having you back very, very soon. Guys, as usual, all of Gaz's socials will be linked down below in the description box. If you're not following him already, I don't know what you're doing. The guy is killing it with TV shows. He will most likely have covered your favorite shows, so definitely go give him a follow. Check out his stuff. He's doing some really fantastic work over there.
Thank you, man.
But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. And we will catch you very soon in the next episode of the Popcorn Podcast. Cheers.